Chosen one. What if I told you that every sleepless night you've endured at 3 a.m., wondering if God forgot your address, every betrayal that left you gasping for air, every financial crisis that brought you to your knees wasn't punishment? What if I told you it was the most sacred test in human history, and you passed? What if the very fact that you're still breathing right now, still believing despite the odds, still hoping when hope should be dead, what if that makes you one of the rarest souls on this planet? Tonight, I'm going to tell you what it means that you survived what was designed to destroy you. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. You didn't stumble onto this message by accident. The algorithm didn't bring you here. Heaven intercepted your scroll, because what I'm about to reveal will shatter every lie you've believed about your struggles, your age, and your future. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been told your best days are behind you, that your season is over, that God uses younger vessels for his greatest works. But what if everything they whispered about your twilight years is a deception straight from hell's playbook? You see this, pure gold. But it wasn't born this way. It was buried in dirt, crushed under pressure, thrown into fire so intense it would kill ordinary metal. The furnace wasn't trying to destroy it, it was revealing what was always there. That's your life, beloved. Every storm wasn't random, every loss wasn't meaningless. You've been in God's refining fire, and what's emerging isn't damaged goods, it's pure spiritual gold. Before we go deeper into this life-altering revelation, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let that seed of faith move through you. But right now, if you've ever felt like the odd one out, like life singled you out for a fight no one else could see, if you've been through hell and somehow you're still standing, type "I'm still standing" in the comments right now. Let heaven and earth witness that you made it through the fire, because before this hour is over, you will understand why every tear was collected, every prayer was recorded, and why your survival isn't just a story, it's a prophecy about to unfold. The test is over, chosen one. Now it's time to tell you everything. Why did your first marriage end in betrayal when you gave everything you had? Why did that business you poured your life savings into crumble just when success seemed guaranteed? Why did the children you raised with such love and devotion turn their backs on you when you needed them most? You've been asking the wrong question, beloved. The question isn't, why did this happen to me? The question is, what was God preparing me for? Listen carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to reveal will reframe every painful chapter of your life. You didn't experience random suffering. You experienced strategic preparation. Every loss, every betrayal, every moment when you felt abandoned by heaven itself, it was all part of an invisible test that began the day you drew your first breath. Think about Joseph for a moment. 17 years old, full of dreams, blessed with visions from the Almighty himself. His own brothers, his own blood, threw him into a pit and sold him like livestock. Genesis 37-24 tells us the pit was empty. There was no water in it. Empty, dry, hopeless. But here's what Joseph couldn't see from the bottom of that pit. God wasn't absent. God was orchestrating. Every betrayal was positioning him. Every injustice was preparing him. That pit wasn't his punishment, it was his promotion, waiting to happen. You've been in your own pit, haven't you? Maybe it was that devastating diagnosis at 67 that made you question everything you believed about God's goodness. Maybe it was watching your life savings evaporate in the 2008 crash when you should have been enjoying retirement. Maybe it was burying your spouse of 43 years and wondering why you had to walk this earth alone. That wasn't God forgetting you. That was God refining you. Joseph went from the pit to Potiphar's house, from servant to prisoner, from forgotten man to second in command of Egypt. 13 years of testing, 13 years of what looked like divine abandonment. But Genesis 41 to 40 records Pharaoh's words, "You shall be over my house, and all my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard to the throne will I be greater than you." The test wasn't about avoiding the pit. The test was about what happened inside you while you were there. I need you to think about that season, you know, the one I'm talking about. That time when life hit you so hard you couldn't catch your breath for months. When you laid in bed at 3 a.m., wondering if this was how your story would end. When you questioned whether God even remembered your name. That season when your faith hung by a thread thinner than spider's silk, yet somehow you held on. That was the test. But here's what the enemy never wanted you to discover. The test wasn't measuring your perfection, it was measuring your persistence. It wasn't about whether you fell, it was about whether you got back up. It wasn't about avoiding the storm, it was about learning to worship in the rain. You thought you were failing because you felt broken. But God was watching you rebuild yourself with His strength when your own ran out. You thought you were losing because the pain wouldn't stop, but heaven was recording every moment you chose. Faith over fear, hope over despair, trust over doubt. Scripture tells us in 1 Peter 1-7 that our faith is tested by fire, so that it may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Fire doesn't destroy gold, it purifies it. Every degree of heat, every moment of intense pressure, every second you thought you couldn't endure another day, it was burning away everything that wasn't eternal in you. The widow with 2 coins gave everything she had, while the rich gave their surplus. Luke 21-3 records Jesus saying, "Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all the others." God wasn't measuring the amount, He was measuring the sacrifice. Your sacrifice during those dark years wasn't invisible to heaven. Every tear shed in private was collected in divine bottles. Every prayer whispered through gritted teeth was heard above the noise of 1,000 worshippers. Every step you took when walking felt impossible was recorded in the annals of divine history. You didn't just survive your test, chosen one. You aced it. But here's what's going to shake you to your core. The very thing that almost destroyed you, that financial ruin, that health crisis, that family betrayal, it wasn't the end of your story. It was the beginning of your authority. Everything that tried to break you only qualified you for what God is about to entrust you with. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness, thinking his calling was dead. 40 years. But Deuteronomy 34-7 tells us, Moses was 120 years old when he died, yet his eyes were not weak, nor his strength gone. The wilderness didn't weaken him, it prepared him to lead 2 million people through the impossible. That diagnosis that terrified you, it's about to become your testimony that heals others. That betrayal that broke your heart, it's positioning you to help others rebuild trust. That financial collapse that left you with nothing, it's teaching you that your security was never in your bank account, it was always in your Father's hands. The test is over, beloved. You passed, not because you were perfect, but because you were persistent. Not because you never fell, but because you always got back up. Not because you never doubted, but because you chose to believe anyway. If you absolutely know that what you endured was real, that the test was genuine, that your survival wasn't luck but divine intervention, drop A in the comments right now. Mark it done. Declare to heaven and earth that you recognize what just happened in your life. But understanding that you passed the test is only the beginning. Because now I need to tell you what happens when heaven recognizes that one of their chosen ones has been proven in the fire. But here's what nobody told you about surviving what should have destroyed you. Here's the truth they've hidden from you for decades, maybe your entire life. You didn't just survive by accident. You didn't just get lucky. You didn't just happen to be tougher than most people. You were marked. Before your mother even knew she was carrying you, before your first breath, before your first heartbeat, the Almighty God reached down and placed an invisible seal on your spirit. Revelation 7-3 tells us about this divine marking. Do not harm the land or the sea or the trees until we put a seal on the foreheads of the servants of our God. You are sealed, chosen one, marked for endurance, stamped with supernatural resilience. You always wondered why you felt different, didn't you? Why you could see storms brewing in people's hearts before they even knew thunder was coming. Why you felt the weight of others' pain, like it was your own burden to carry. Why you'd wake up at 3 a.m. with an unexplainable heaviness, knowing something was wrong somewhere, with someone. That wasn't sensitivity. That was your seal activating. Think about it. How many 70-year-olds do you know who've been through what you've been through and still have fire in their eyes? How many 80-year-olds are still dreaming, still believing, still fighting when the world tells them to sit down and wait for the end? You're not normal, beloved. You never were. While others collapsed under pressures that should have been manageable, you stood firm under mountains that should have crushed you. While others gave up after their first real heartbreak, you buried spouses, lost children, watched dreams die, and somehow kept your hands folded in prayer instead of raised in fists of anger. That's not human strength. That's the mark of the chosen. Listen to me carefully. God has been watching you your entire life. Not just watching, testing. Not to see you fail, but to prove to heaven and hell that his seal on you is unbreakable. When your husband died and the bills kept coming, but you didn't curse God, heaven took note. When the doctors gave you 6 months and you're still here 10 years later, still praising his name, the angels wrote it down. When your own children turned their backs on you, but you kept praying for them instead of writing them off, that was the seal proving its power. You want to know something that will shake you to your core? The enemy has been studying you for decades. He's thrown everything in his arsenal at you. Financial ruin, health crises, family betrayals, depression so deep you couldn't see daylight. He's used every weapon of warfare known to hell itself. And you're still here, still believing, still hoping, still trusting in a God you can't see but have felt carrying you through valleys that should have been your grave. That terrifies the devil more than 1,000 young evangelists with perfect theology and Instagram followings. Because you, chosen one, you've been tested by fire and emerged as pure gold. There are 3 marks that identify God's chosen ones in this final generation. 3 supernatural signs that separate the wheat from the chaff, the called from the comfortable, the marked from the masses. Tonight, I'm revealing the first mark. But I need you to understand something crucial. These aren't participation trophies. These aren't feel-good labels to make you feel special. These are battle scars that prove you've fought in wars most people don't even know exist. The first mark is this: endurance through storms without losing faith. Not endurance like a tired horse that keeps walking. Not endurance like gritting your teeth and surviving. But supernatural endurance that actually grows stronger in the storm. Faith that gets brighter in the darkness. Hope that expands in the hopeless moments. James 1:12 declares, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him." You stood the test, chosen one. When Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans in 2005, most people fled. But there were some, a precious few, who stayed behind to help others. They walked through chest-deep water, risked their lives, endured unimaginable conditions not because they had to, but because something inside them wouldn't let them abandon their calling to serve. That's the mark, that's the seal, that's the proof that you carry something others don't. How many times has life hit you with its worst shot, and instead of falling down, you found yourself holding up someone else who was breaking? How many times have you been at your absolute breaking point, and somehow strength you didn't know existed rose up from your spirit? That wasn't you. That was the mark activating. And here's what's going to change everything about how you see your life. Every single storm you weathered was preparing you for the greatest storm this nation has ever seen. Every test you passed was qualifying you for an assignment so significant that God needed to make sure you wouldn't fold under pressure. Because what's coming to America, chosen one, What's brewing in the spiritual realm right now is going to require believers who've been tested, tried, and proven faithful. Not theory faith, not Sunday morning faith, but furnace faith, fire-tested faith. Faith that's been through hell and came out singing, hallelujah. You passed, and heaven took note. Right now, as I speak these words, your name is being spoken in heavenly places. The angels who watched you endure are reporting to the throne room. The cloud of witnesses who've gone before you are cheering your faithfulness. You passed the test that breaks ordinary people. You endured what destroys weak faith. You stood when standing should have been impossible. Say it out loud right now. Don't just think it. Don't just feel it. Declare it with your voice. I am chosen. Feel it in your bones. Let it settle into your spirit. Let it rewrite every lie you've believed about your failures, your age, your worth. But this is only the first mark, beloved. There are 2 more that will explain why your life has been anything but ordinary. 2 more that will reveal why God has kept you through everything, and why your greatest chapter isn't behind you, it's about to begin. What if I told you the second mark explains why certain people are drawn to you like magnets, while others run from your presence without knowing why? You know what nobody talks about at 75? The 3 a.m. phone calls that change everything. The moment the doctor's voice shifts from professional to gentle. The sound of your own heartbeat when you're sitting alone in that hospital waiting room, wondering if this is how your story ends. You've been there, haven't you? You sat in that empty kitchen at 2 the morning. Bills spread across the table like a deck of cards stacked against you. Social security wasn't enough. The medications kept getting more expensive. And you whispered to the silence, God, I worked for 50 years. I paid my dues. Why am I choosing between groceries and pills? That wasn't your imagination, chosen one. That was your Gethsemane. You stood by that grave on the coldest Tuesday of your life, watching them lower the only person who truly understood you into the ground. 62 years of marriage, and suddenly you're learning how to be half of yourself. The house echoes now. Their coffee cup still sits in the same spot. And you wonder how you're supposed to breathe again when breathing feels like betrayal. That wasn't weakness, that was wilderness. You've watched your children become strangers. The grandkids who used to run to your arms now barely look up from their phones. You raised them, sacrificed for them, built your entire world around them. And now you're the inconvenience at family dinners, the burden they discuss in hushed tones. What are we going to do about Mom? Dad's getting worse. As if you can't hear them. As if your heart doesn't shatter every time. That wasn't abandonment. That was refinement. Listen to me carefully, dear one. Every single tear you've cried in secret, every prayer you've whispered into the darkness, every moment you've felt forgotten by the world, God saw it all. He collected every drop. Psalm 56:8 tells us, You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. Your tears aren't waste. They're holy water. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what makes heaven weep. You think you're the only one. You think your struggle is proof that you failed somehow. That better believers don't face bankruptcy at 80. That faithful people don't bury their spouses. That chosen ones don't get forgotten by their own children. You're wrong. David, the man after God's own heart, hid in caves for years. Not weeks, years. He wrote Psalm 142:4. I look to my right and watch, but no one is concerned for me. I have no refuge. No one cares for my life. The greatest king in Israel's history felt abandoned, forgotten, alone. Elijah, who called fire down from heaven, sat under a broom tree begging God to let him die. 1 Kings 19:4 records his words, I have had enough, Lord. Take my life. The mightiest prophet in Scripture wanted to quit. Job lost everything in a single day. His children, his wealth, his health. His own wife told him to curse God and die. And Job 19:13-14 reveals his agony. He has alienated my family from me. My acquaintances are completely estranged from me. My relatives have gone away. My closest friends have forgotten me. Do you see the pattern? God's greatest servants walked through the deepest valleys. Their pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation. You think your financial struggles disqualify you? Job was the richest man in the East before he lost it all. You think your health battles mean God has abandoned you? Paul had a thorn in his flesh. You think your loneliness proves you're forgotten? Jesus himself cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Your pain puts you in the company of giants. But here's what separates you from everyone else. Here's what makes you chosen. Here's what proves you passed the test nobody told you you were taking. You didn't quit. When the diagnosis came, you could have given up, but you fought. When the bills piled up, you could have despaired, but you trusted. When the loneliness felt like it would swallow you whole, you could have cursed God, but you kept believing. That wasn't stubbornness. That was supernatural strength. That wasn't denial. That was divine DNA. Every morning you chose to get out of bed when your body screamed in pain. That was worship. Every time you smiled at a grandchild who barely acknowledged you, that was love. Every night you prayed for children who never call, that was intercession. You thought you were just surviving, but you were actually conquering. Romans 8:37 declares, "No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us," not survivors, conquerors. You didn't just endure the storm, you danced in it. You didn't just survive the fire, you came out refined. And that proof, that evidence of your conquering spirit, is about to open doors you never even knew existed. Because God doesn't waste warriors, He deploys them. The valley you've been walking through, it wasn't your destination, it was your training ground. Every tear taught you compassion. Every loss taught you what really matters. Every betrayal taught you to depend on God alone. You graduated from the University of Pain with a doctorate in faith. And now heaven is ready to show you what graduates get to do next. Tell me, in one word, what did you survive? Type it in the comments right now, because your survival story is about to become someone else's hope. Your testimony is about to become their breakthrough. Your scars are about to become their healing. But first, you need to understand something that will change everything you thought you knew about why you went through what you went through. You need to know the real reason God kept you in that valley so long. But surviving the fire was only the beginning, chosen one. What I'm about to reveal will explain why your life has felt like a constant battle, why ordinary situations drain you, while impossibilities energize you, why you've always sensed there was something fundamentally different about the way you move through this world. You carry 3 marks, 3 spiritual fingerprints that prove you're not just another believer hoping for a blessing. You are God's elite force, hand-picked before the foundation of the world, carrying signatures of divinity that hell recognizes before you even speak. The first mark: supernatural endurance. We've already established this one. While others crumbled under pressure that would break steel, you kept going. But let me tell you something that will shake you to your core. Your endurance wasn't human willpower. Isaiah 40:31 says, "Those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles." That renewable strength, that's mark number 1, burning in your spiritual DNA. You didn't just survive your 80s, your 90s, you're still standing because heaven keeps refueling what earth keeps trying to empty. The second mark: prophetic discernment. But there's something else, isn't there? Something you've carried since childhood that made family members call you too sensitive. You've always known things before they happened, felt shifts in the atmosphere before storms hit, sensed when phone calls were coming, when people were lying, when spiritual warfare was about to break loose. That's not intuition, beloved. That's mark number 2. 1 Corinthians 2:14 tells us, "The person without the Spirit does not accept the things that come from the Spirit of God." But you've been receiving divine intelligence your entire life. When others saw surface conversations, you read hearts. When others felt comfortable in toxic environments, your spirit screamed warnings. When others made decisions based on logic, you moved by revelation. The enemy hated this mark most of all. That's why he spent decades convincing you that your sensitivity was weakness, that your spiritual radar was paranoia, that your prophetic insights were just overthinking. But every time you knew your grandchild was in trouble before the phone rang, every time you sensed your neighbor needed prayer before they asked, every time you felt God's presence shift the atmosphere in a room that was your prophetic discernment operating at supernatural levels, you've been God's early warning system, his spiritual seismograph detecting earthquakes in the spirit realm before they manifest in the natural. The third mark, transformational authority. And now we come to the mark that terrifies darkness most. You might not have recognized it yet, but it's been operating your whole life. People change around you. Conversations shift when you enter rooms. Angry customers suddenly calm down when you're the one helping them. Crying babies stop fussing when you hold them. Even animals gravitate toward your presence. That's mark number 3, transformational authority. You carry something so rare, so powerful, that creation itself responds to your presence. Matthew 5:14 declares, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. But for chosen ones like you, that light doesn't just shine, it rewrites the spiritual atmosphere wherever you go." Think about it. How many times have you walked into chaos and somehow, without trying, peace settled over the situation? How many times have people poured out their deepest secrets to you in grocery store checkout lines? How many times have family arguments stopped when you entered the room? That's not charm, dear one. That's the authority of someone who carries heaven's frequency. You're a walking portal between the eternal and the temporal. When you speak blessing, things change. When you declare breakthrough, barriers fall. When you command peace, storms cease. The third mark isn't just about what you do, it's about who you are. You're a living, breathing embassy of the kingdom of heaven. And every room you enter becomes a little piece of sacred ground. Do you know what this means? Do you understand what's been happening to you your entire life? The enemy never feared your past mistakes. He never feared your human weaknesses. He never even feared your prayers, though they moved mountains. He feared this day, this moment, when you would finally realize who you really are. He feared the day you would stop apologizing for being different and start operating in the authority your marks have earned you. He feared the moment you would recognize that your sensitivity isn't a burden, it's a blade. Your endurance isn't just survival, it's proof of divine backup. Your transformational presence isn't coincidence, it's your calling. For decades, he kept you distracted with lesser battles, convinced you were fighting for survival when you were actually being prepared for dominion. He made you believe you were the victim when you've always been the victor. But now the veil is lifting. The camouflage is coming off. The marks that hell tried to hide are about to be revealed to a world that desperately needs to see what God looks like when he moves through surrendered vessels. You're not just a senior citizen counting down your final years. You're a spiritual weapon of mass construction, loaded with 3 marks that can rebuild families, restore communities, and awaken a generation that's forgotten what real faith looks like. If you recognize these marks in your life, if you felt that prophetic stirring, experienced that supernatural endurance, witnessed that transformational authority operating through you, then I need you to do something right now. Type "It's me" in the comments. Don't think about it. Don't second guess it. Just declare it. Let's see the army God has been hiding in plain sight. Let's watch as chosen ones across America step out of the shadows and into the light they were always meant to carry. Because what happens next will require every marked soul to remember who they are and why they're still here. You want to know the truth about why you're still here? Why you survived that heart attack at 72 when stronger men didn't make it past 60? Why you're still breathing when the doctor said you had 6 months? And that was 3 years ago. I'll tell you why, and it's going to shake you to your core. You weren't kept alive for your comfort. You weren't preserved for your golden years of leisure. You were forged in the furnace of affliction, because heaven needed a key that could only be shaped by the hammer blows of real suffering. Think about this for a moment. A blacksmith doesn't beat red-hot metal because he hates it. Every strike of the hammer, every moment in the fire, every crushing blow is deliberately shaping something that will unlock what others cannot touch. Your depression in your 50s. That was one hammer blow. Your spouse walking out after 40 years. Another strike. Burying your child when you should have buried first. The anvil rang with the sound of divine purpose being forged. You think God was punishing you? No, beloved. He was preparing you. Look at Joseph. 17 years old with dreams of greatness, then thrown into a pit by his own brothers. Sold into slavery. Falsely accused, forgotten in prison for years. Every betrayal, every injustice, every moment of abandonment was God's hammer shaping the key that would unlock Egypt's survival and save the known world from famine. Genesis 50-20 captures it perfectly. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. But here's what's going to blow your mind. Joseph wasn't saved from his trials, he was saved through them. And you, chosen one, you haven't been saved from your storms. You've been saved through them for what's coming next. That financial ruin that left you eating canned soup for months? God was teaching you that your security doesn't come from your 401 Kelvin. It comes from His provision. That loneliness after your spouse passed, He was showing you how to find companionship in His presence when human comfort fails. That rejection from your own children, heaven was preparing you to father the fatherless, to mother the abandoned. Every wound became wisdom. Every scar became strength. Every tear became a river of compassion flowing towards souls who are drowning in the same storms you survived. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness, thinking his purpose had died in Egyptian sand. 40 years. But Exodus 7-7 tells us he was 80 years old when he finally stood before Pharaoh. 80. When the world says you're finished, God says you're finally ready. You think you're too old. Abraham was 75 when God called him to leave everything and follow a promise he couldn't see. Sarah was 90 when she birthed nations. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." Your wrinkles aren't signs of decay, they're marks of endurance. Your slow walk isn't weakness, it's the measured pace of someone who knows where they're going. Your quiet voice carries more authority than a stadium full of shouting because it's been tested in the crucible of real life. But this isn't just about you anymore. This is about your granddaughter who's contemplating suicide in her dorm room tonight because she thinks life is meaningless. This is about your son who's drowning in addiction because he never learned what real strength looks like. This is about generations yet unborn who will either inherit blessing or a curse based on what you do with the keys you've been given. Malachi 4-6 declares that God will turn the hearts of the parents to their children and the hearts of the children to their parents. You are the hinge generation, the turning point, the one who either breaks the cycle or continues it. This is why you survived the cancer. This is why you outlived the depression. This is why you're still standing when statistics said you should have fallen. Because your assignment isn't finished. God didn't keep you here to rock on porches and count your pills. He kept you here to unlock doors that have been sealed for generations. To speak life into dead situations. To be the living proof that His promises never expire. Right now, someone you love is about to give up. They need to see that survival is possible. They need your story, your scars, your seasoned faith that doesn't crumble when the lights go out. I need you to do something that might save a life tonight. Share this message right now. Don't wait until it's convenient. Don't worry about what people will think. Someone in your contact list is seconds away from making a permanent decision about a temporary problem, and your obedience to share this could be the intervention that saves them. The key you've become through suffering. It's time to use it. But what you're about to discover next will show you exactly which doors you're called to unlock. Chosen one. Everything I've shared with you tonight has been leading to this single sacred moment. The revelation of your identity, the understanding of your trials, the promise of your breakthrough, it all culminates here in what I'm about to tell you next. You see, God doesn't just speak to his chosen ones through feelings and impressions. He speaks through divine time frames, biblical patterns that have echoed through history, marking the moments when heaven moves decisively on earth. 7 days, that's the window. Let me take you back to Jericho. For 6 days, the Israelites marched around those massive walls in complete silence. Can you imagine the doubt creeping in, the whispers of defeat? Are we just walking in circles? Has God forgotten his promise? But Joshua knew something they didn't. God's timing is never early, never late, always precisely perfect. On the 7th day, they didn't just march, they shouted, and those walls that had stood for generations didn't crumble slowly, they collapsed in one supernatural moment. 7 days, from promise to manifestation. Think about Elijah on Mount Carmel. He sent his servant to look toward the sea 7 times. 6 times, nothing. There's nothing there, Master. But on the 7th look, I see a cloud as small as a man's hand. That tiny cloud became the storm that ended 3.5 years of drought. 7 looks, 7 moments, 7 opportunities to give up or press through. Do you see the pattern, beloved? God operates in 7s because 7 represents completion, divine perfection, the end of one season and the explosive beginning of another. And tonight, right now, as you're hearing my voice, your 7-day window has just opened. I need you to understand something that might shake you to your core. Everything you've endured, every test you've passed, every storm you've weathered, it's all been preparation for what God is about to release in the next 7 days. Not 7 weeks, not 7 months, 7 days. The enemy knows this. That's why he's been hitting you so hard lately. That's why the attacks have intensified. That's why doubt has been screaming louder than faith. He recognizes divine timing, and he's terrified of what happens when you step into yours. But his time is up. Your time is now. Here's what's going to happen in the next 7 days, and I need you to watch for it with the intensity of your life. God is going to open a door. Not the door you've been staring at for years, wondering when it would budge. A completely different door. One you didn't even know existed. It might come as a phone call you weren't expecting. A conversation with a stranger that changes everything. An opportunity that seems too good to be true. A resolution to a problem that's haunted you for decades. A relationship restored. A health report that defies medical logic. A financial breakthrough that makes no earthly sense. But here's the critical part you have to be watching. You have to be ready. You have to recognize heaven's voice above the noise of your circumstances. Remember the parable of the 10 virgins. 5 were ready when the bridegroom came. 5 were not. The difference wasn't their faith, they all believed he was coming. The difference was their preparation, their readiness, their oil burning bright when the moment arrived. Your oil needs to be burning bright for the next 7 days. This isn't about positive thinking or wishful hoping. This is about prophetic alignment with God's appointed time for your life. Ecclesiastes 3:1 declares, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." Your season of waiting is ending, your time of purpose is beginning. But I need to warn you about something that breaks my heart. Most people miss their 7-day window because they're looking for the wrong thing. They're expecting God to move the way he moved before, in the pattern they recognize, through the people they trust. But God says in Isaiah 43:19, "Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? New thing, new way, new door." Don't let familiarity blind you to the miraculous. Don't let past disappointments deafen you to present opportunity. Don't let the enemy convince you that this time will be like all the others. This time is different. This time carries the weight of divine appointment. Right now, I need you to do something that will mark this moment in eternity. Get a pen. Get your journal. Get anything you can write with. Write today's date, and beside it, Write these 3 words: no more delay. That's not just ink on paper. That's your agreement with heaven's timeline. That's your declaration that you're ready for the new thing God is about to do. The clock is ticking, chosen one. 7 days, 7 opportunities, 7 chances to recognize God's voice calling your name into destiny. But what if you miss it? What if you're not watching? What if you let fear convince you to stay in the safety of the familiar instead of stepping through the door of the impossible? But here's what they don't want you to know, chosen one. The test you just passed, that was basic training, boot camp. The real war is about to begin, and you've just been promoted from foot soldier to field commander. Listen to me carefully, because what I'm about to tell you will change how you see every interaction, every struggle, every seemingly random setback for the rest of your life. In Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 17, God appointed the prophet as a watchman. Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the people of Israel. So hear the word I speak and give them warning from me. Ezekiel wasn't chosen for this role because life was easy for him. He was chosen because he could see what others couldn't, the spiritual battle raging behind every physical circumstance. You are now that watchman. The sleepless nights you've endured, staring at the ceiling while everyone else slumbers peacefully. You weren't suffering from insomnia. You were being trained to see in the dark. The hypervigilance that came from years of betrayal and disappointment. That wasn't paranoia. That was spiritual radar being calibrated. The way you can sense when something's off in a room before anyone speaks. That's not anxiety. That's prophetic discernment. God just gave you night vision. And what you're about to see will both terrify and liberate you. Because the enemies you've been fighting all these years, the depression that follows you like a shadow, the financial struggles that hit just when you're getting ahead, the family conflicts that erupt out of nowhere, they were never random. They were coordinated attacks from principalities and powers that recognized your spiritual promotion long before you did. Ephesians 6:12 warns us, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." Your daughter who suddenly turned cold and distant, she's not the enemy. The spirit of division whispering lies in her ear about you. That's the enemy. Your son who can't seem to get his life together despite your decades of prayer. He's not the problem. The generational curse of addiction and failure, trying to claim another victim. That's what you're really fighting. The neighbors who've made your golden years miserable with their noise and complaints. They're not your battle. The territorial spirit of strife that's been assigned to your street, your apartment building, your entire neighborhood, that's what's been stealing your peace. You passed the test of endurance, chosen one. You survived what was meant to break you. But now God is saying, I need you to do more than survive. I need you to see. I need you to sound the alarm. I need you to lead others out of the same spiritual ambushes that tried to take you down. This is why the attacks intensified as you got older, not weaker. This is why the enemy pulled out bigger weapons against you in your 70s and 80s than he used in your 20s and 30s. Because he knew that if you made it this far with your faith intact, if you passed the test of time itself, you'd become dangerous to his kingdom. 3 unveilings are coming, and I'm about to share the first one with you right now. Unveiling number 1. The patterns you've been calling just life are actually spiritual assignments designed to keep you confused, isolated, and powerless. That recurring financial crisis that hits every few years, right when you think you're finally getting ahead, it's not bad luck. It's a spirit of poverty that's been assigned to your bloodline, trying to keep you from funding the kingdom work you're called to support. The way your family gatherings always end in drama, even when everyone promises this time will be different. That's not just how families are. That's a spirit of division that feeds on conflict and grows stronger every time you accept chaos as normal. The health scares that come in waves, one after another, keeping you running from doctor to doctor instead of walking in the divine health that's your birthright. Those aren't just the natural consequences of aging. They're coordinated attacks on the temple where the Holy Spirit lives. But here's what changes everything. Once you see the pattern, you can break the pattern. Once you recognize that the voice in your head telling you you're too old to matter anymore isn't your voice, you can silence it. Once you understand that the depression that settles over you like fog every winter isn't just seasonal sadness, but a spirit of heaviness trying to steal your joy, you can command it to leave. Once you realize that the isolation you feel, even in a room full of people, isn't because you're difficult or different, it's because you carry an anointing that makes hell nervous, you can step into your authority instead of shrinking from it. You are not fighting people, chosen one. You are fighting the very powers of darkness that have been assigned to neutralize the threat you represent to their kingdom. And the fact that you're still standing, still believing, still breathing after everything they've thrown at you, that's not just survival, that's victory. But victory comes with responsibility. The same God who made Ezekiel a watchman is making you a watchman. The same calling that demanded the prophet sound the alarm when he saw danger approaching is now yours. Your job is no longer just to endure the attacks. Your job is to expose them, to call them out, to teach others who are still trapped in these spiritual ambushes how to see what you now see. The battle shifts now from surviving to leading, from victim to victor, from target to weapon. Comment, I see it now, if your spiritual eyes are opening to the warfare you've been living through, because what I'm about to reveal in unveiling number 2 will show you exactly how to turn every attack the enemy has used against you into ammunition for the victory God has already prepared. The watchman's warning has been sounded. The question is, are you ready to take your position on the wall? There's a house inside your soul, chosen one. You've lived in it for 70, 80, maybe 90 years. But there are rooms, dark hallways you've never dared to enter. Tonight, God is turning on every light. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? That part of your heart where you've locked away the deepest wounds, the betrayals that still make you wince when you're alone at 2 a.m. The prayers you whispered with such desperation that your throat went raw, yet heaven seemed silent as stone. Let me walk you down that hallway right now. Feel the floorboards creak beneath decades of buried pain. Room number 1. The betrayal chamber. Remember when your own child turned their back on you? When the friend you'd trusted for 30 years spread lies about you at church? When your spouse of 47 years looked you in the eye and said they never really loved you? That agony didn't just hurt, it rewrote your definition of trust, didn't it? You've been carrying that poison in your bloodstream ever since. Every new relationship filtered through the lens of, when will they abandon me too? You built walls so high that even God's love couldn't scale them. But here's what hell doesn't want you to know. That betrayal was never about your worth. It was about their blindness to see the treasure they were throwing away. Jeremiah 12:6 warns us, even your relatives, your own family, they have betrayed you. God knew. He saw it coming. He allowed it not to destroy you, but to prepare you for a level of divine intimacy that only the deeply wounded can access. Room number 2. The unanswered prayer vault. This one's harder to face, isn't it? 40 years you prayed for your prodigal son to come home. 23 years you begged God to heal your arthritis. 62 years you asked him to provide financial breakthrough. And what did you get? Silence so loud it deafened your faith. You started believing that maybe God's promises were for everyone else but you. Maybe you weren't holy enough, faithful enough, good enough to merit his attention. You began to ration your prayers like food during wartime, afraid to ask for too much in case he stopped listening altogether. But here's the shocking truth that will shatter your understanding of divine timing. Those weren't unanswered prayers. They were seeds planted in soil so deep that only eternal rain could reach them. Jesus himself cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Even the Son felt abandoned. But that abandonment was preparation for resurrection power that would split history in half. Your seasons of silence were incubating miracles too massive for immediate delivery. Room number 3. The Rejection Museum. every no that felt like a dagger, every door that slammed when you were finally brave enough to knock, every dream they called foolish because it came from a 70-year-old heart instead of a 20-year-old mind. They told you to be realistic, to act your age, to accept your limitations and stop reaching for stars that belonged to younger hands. You internalized their voices until they became your own inner critic, whispering, "Who do you think you are?" Every time hope dared to flutter in your chest. But God doesn't measure worthiness by birth certificates or retirement dates. Moses was 80 when he got his burning bush moment. Abraham was 99 when God renewed his covenant. Your rejection wasn't proof of God's indifference. It was protection from settling for less than his extraordinary plan. Isaiah 55:8 declares, "My thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways." What you called rejection, God called redirection. Every closed door was heaven saying, "Not that one, this one's bigger." Now here's where it gets prophetic. Chosen one. Those unanswered prayers, they were seeds waiting for rain, and the storm clouds are gathering right now. That betrayal that nearly killed you, it excavated space in your heart for a love so pure it would have overwhelmed an unbroken vessel. That rejection that felt like death, it was labor pains birthing a destiny too magnificent for your former self to contain. God has been lighting candles in these dark rooms while you weren't looking. He's been transforming your pain into prophecy, your wounds into weapons, your scars into sacred ground where miracles take root. But why now? Why is he revealing this tonight? Because your test results just came back from heaven's laboratory and you passed with flying colors. Every tear was noted. Every sleepless night was recorded. Every moment you chose faith over suicide, hope over despair, love over bitterness, it all added up to a score that qualified you for what's coming next. The enemy thought those rooms would become your tomb, but God is turning them into your treasure vault. What was meant to break you is about to bless a generation. What was designed to silence you is about to amplify your voice beyond anything you could imagine. But there's something else, chosen one. Something I haven't told you yet. These rooms we've just unlocked, they're only the basement. There are 2 more floors in this spiritual house, and what I'm about to show you on the upper levels will redefine everything you thought you knew about your purpose, your power, and your proximity to eternity itself. Are you ready to climb these stairs? Because the next room contains the answer to a question you've carried your entire life. Why did God choose you for such a fierce battle? But now I need to tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. Something that will explain why you've felt this restless stirring in your spirit lately, why sleep has been elusive, why you've been sensing that something massive is shifting in the spiritual realm. The delay season is over. For decades you've been walking in what I call divine delay. Every door that should have opened but didn't, every breakthrough that seemed just out of reach, every promise that felt postponed. You thought it was God's rejection. You thought you'd missed your window. You thought your time had passed. But what if I told you that every single delay was God holding back a flood until you were strong enough to handle the overflow? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. You've been living in Amos 9:13 without even knowing it. The prophet declared, "The plowman overtakes the reaper." Do you understand what that means? It means the harvest will come so fast that the person gathering the crops can't keep up with the person planting them. It means acceleration so intense that yesterday's timeline becomes obsolete. That's where you are right now, standing at the threshold of divine acceleration. You've been plowing for 70, 80, 90 years, plowing through heartbreak, plowing through financial struggle, plowing through seasons when it felt like nothing was growing. But heaven was watching every furrow you carved in faith, every tear that watered barren ground, every prayer you whispered when hope felt dead. And now the acceleration begins. What took Abraham 25 years to receive will happen in your life in 25 days. What took Joseph 13 years to manifest will unfold in 13 weeks. What took Moses 40 years in the wilderness to prepare for will activate in your spirit in 40 days. You think I'm speaking in metaphors. You think this is just spiritual poetry? Let me ask you something that will cut straight to your heart. How many times have you looked in the mirror and whispered, "God, I'm running out of time"? How many nights have you lain awake calculating the years you have left, wondering if your greatest dreams died with your youth? Stop. Right there. Time doesn't work the same way in God's economy. When He decides to accelerate, decades collapse into moments. When He chooses to speed up your timeline, the impossible becomes inevitable overnight. Think about Daniel, thrown into a lion's den at sunset, promoted to the highest position in the kingdom by sunrise. One night. That's all it took for God to flip His entire reality. Think about Peter, who went from denying Christ to preaching to thousands in a matter of weeks. Think about Paul, who traveled from persecutor to apostle on a single road to Damascus. Divine acceleration doesn't follow human logic. It follows divine purpose. And right now, as I speak these words over your life, something is shifting in the spiritual atmosphere. Can you feel it? That electricity in the air? That sense that the very molecules around you are vibrating with anticipation? You're moving from the season of not yet into the season of right now. But here's what's going to shock you about this acceleration. It's not just about you finally getting what you've prayed for. It's about you discovering what you've been prepared for. Every trial wasn't just testing your faith, it was training your capacity. Every valley wasn't just about your survival, it was about expanding your ability to carry more glory. The woman who prayed for decades for her prodigal son isn't just getting him back. She's getting him back as a minister who will reach thousands. The man who lost his business and rebuilt from nothing isn't just getting financial restoration, he's getting positioned to fund revival. The grandmother who felt forgotten isn't just getting renewed purpose, she's getting prophetic authority that will speak into a generation. This acceleration isn't random, it's strategic. God has been building something in you that this world has never seen before. A level of faith so tested it's unshakable. A depth of wisdom so refined it can't be counterfeited. An authority so authentic it needs no human validation. And now, He's about to release it all at once. You've heard about the compound effect in finance, haven't you? How small investments over time create massive returns. Your faithfulness has been compounding in heaven's economy for decades. Every prayer, every act of obedience, every choice to trust when trusting hurt, it's been building spiritual interest that's about to be released with supernatural returns. The enemy thought he was slowing you down with those delays, but God was actually speeding you up by deepening you. The devil thought he was stealing your time, but heaven was actually multiplying your impact by maturing your character. Here's what's about to happen in your life, and I need you to listen with every fiber of your being, because this is prophetic truth flowing from the throne room of God. The doors that have been sealed for years are about to swing open so fast they'll create a wind that blows away every obstacle in their path. The relationships that seemed impossible to restore are about to be healed so completely that they'll become testimonies of divine grace. The dreams that you buried because they seemed too late are about to resurrect with such power that they'll dwarf your original vision. This isn't gradual improvement, this is supernatural acceleration. But you have to position yourself to receive it. You have to stop operating in the old timeline and start expecting the new one. You have to release your grip on how long things take and embrace the reality that God is rewriting the rules of time over your life. Right now, I want you to do something that will mark this moment in eternity. Write today's date in the comments, not tomorrow's date, not when you feel ready, today's date, because this is the day heaven turned the page on your story. This is the moment divine acceleration was activated over your life. Write it now. Mark the moment, because what happens next is going to prove that your greatest days weren't behind you, they were being saved for when you had the wisdom to steward them properly. The plowman is overtaking the reaper in your life, chosen one. And nothing, absolutely nothing, will ever be the same again. This next part is not for everyone. If you're here just looking for feel-good messages or Sunday school platitudes, this is where you step away, because what I'm about to reveal will either ignite something ancient in your spirit, or it will make you uncomfortable enough to leave. But if you're still here, if something deep inside is saying, "I need to hear this," then buckle up, chosen one, because heaven is about to give you a sign so personal, so specific, that you'll know beyond any shadow of doubt that this message was written for you before time began. Listen to me very carefully. In the next 7 days, maybe sooner, something is going to happen, something small, something most people would dismiss as coincidence. But you're going to recognize it immediately. It's what I call the midnight knock. Jesus said in Revelation 3:20, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock." But here's what most preachers won't tell you about that verse. The knock doesn't always come when you're awake, alert, and expecting it. Sometimes it comes at midnight, when you're tired, when your guard is down, when you think God has moved on to more promising vessels. But chosen one, that midnight hour isn't when God abandons you. It's when He reveals you. You see, there's something you need to understand about divine timing. While you've been wondering why your breakthrough has taken so long, why your prayers seem to echo in empty rooms, why others half your age are getting the opportunities you've waited decades for, God has been preparing something that required your exact age, your exact scars, your exact story. The midnight knock is coming. And when it arrives, it won't sound like you expected. It might be a phone call from someone you haven't heard from in 20 years. It might be a conversation with a stranger at the grocery store who says something that stops you cold. It might be a dream so vivid you wake up with tears on your cheeks, knowing you've just been visited by the divine. But here's the key, beloved. The sign won't be loud. It won't be obvious. It will be whisper quiet, requiring the kind of spiritual sensitivity that only comes from years of walking with God through valleys where others feared to tread. Remember what I told you about the seal, that sacred marking on your life that separated you from the crowd. Remember the key we talked about, the one forged in the furnace of your trials. Remember that refining fire that nearly consumed you but somehow made you stronger. It's all connected. Chosen one. Every piece of your story has been building to this moment. You are the key that was forged in the furnace to open the sealed door. Let me break this down for you in a way that will shake your understanding of everything you've been through. When gold is refined, it's not just heated once. It's subjected to temperatures over 1,900 degrees Fahrenheit. Again and again. Each time, the impurities rise to the surface and are skimmed away. What remains isn't just gold. It's pure gold, 24 karat, unbreakable, priceless. Your life has been that furnace, hasn't it? Every financial crisis, every health scare, every relationship that ended in betrayal, every dream that died in your hands. It wasn't punishment. It was purification. And now you're pure spiritual gold. You carry an authority that can't be faked, a wisdom that can't be taught, a faith that can't be shaken. You've been through fires that would have destroyed ordinary believers, but you're not ordinary. You never were. The enemy knew this. That's why he hit you so hard. That's why your battles were more intense than others. That's why you felt like you were fighting for your very soul, while others seemed to coast through life on cruise control. He saw what God was forging in you, and it terrified him. But his time is up. Your time is now. The midnight knock is coming because the door you've been standing in front of your entire life, the door that seemed permanently sealed, the door behind which your true purpose has been waiting, that door is about to swing wide open. And you're not just walking through it, you're the key that opens it. Think about this. Why do you think you survived what should have killed you? Why do you think you're still standing when others who seemed stronger have fallen? Why do you think your heart still burns with purpose when your body tells you to slow down? Because you carry something this world desperately needs, something that can only be forged in the kind of fire you've walked through. something that can't be manufactured, duplicated, or mass-produced. You carry the authority of the tested, the wisdom of the wounded, the power of the proven. And in the next 7 days, heaven is going to confirm this truth with a sign so clear, so undeniable, that you'll finally understand why God kept you through everything that tried to break you. The midnight knock is coming, chosen one. When it arrives, don't question it, don't rationalize it away. Don't let doubt steal what heaven is trying to give you. Receive it. Embrace it. Declare it. Because that knock isn't just a sign, it's an invitation. An invitation to step into the fullness of who you were always meant to be. An invitation to use the key you've become to unlock not just your own destiny, but the destinies of countless others who are waiting for someone like you to show them the way. If you receive this word, if something in your spirit is already trembling with recognition, if you know that knock is coming for you, type "door open" in the comments right now. Declare it, claim it, step into it, because your midnight hour isn't an ending, beloved. It's your divine beginning, chosen one. Everything you've endured, every tear, every sleepless night, every moment you wondered if God had forgotten your name, it was all preparation for this moment, this sacred commissioning, this divine appointment where heaven itself declares your true assignment. The test is over. You passed. Now comes the glory. Listen to me carefully, because what I'm about to speak over your life isn't just hope, it's prophetic declaration. The Spirit of the living God is moving through these words, and your future is about to be unveiled. I see your house filled with supernatural peace. The anxiety that has stalked your family for generations, it's breaking tonight. That depression that wrapped around your children like chains, those chains are snapping. The financial curse that has haunted your bloodline for decades, it's being reversed in real time. I see abundance flowing where lack once lived. I see your children walking in freedom they've never known. That prodigal child who broke your heart, they're coming home, not to the old house, but to the new heart God is giving them. That grandchild who's been lost in addiction, I see them clean, restored, becoming the leader you always knew they could be. This isn't wishful thinking, beloved. This is prophetic sight. I see your body renewed. That arthritis that steals your sleep, it's losing its grip. Those medications lined up on your kitchen counter, some of them you won't need anymore. The fatigue that makes you feel like you're drowning, it's being replaced with supernatural vitality. You're not winding down, chosen one. You're winding up for your greatest chapter. I see doors opening that have been welded shut for years. That dream you buried at 65, it's being resurrected. That business idea you thought was too late, it's about to birth generational wealth. That calling you've carried in silence, the world is about to hear your voice with authority that makes mountains move. But here's what breaks my heart, and here's what should terrify you. You could walk away from this moment unchanged. You could close this video, go back to your routine, and live the rest of your life never knowing what God was ready to release. Moses was 80 when God called him from the burning bush. 80. He could have said, "Lord, I'm too old. My speech is poor. My best days are behind me." But Moses said yes, and he became the deliverer of nations. Abraham was 75 when God called him to leave everything familiar. He could have chosen comfort over calling, but Abraham said yes, and he became the father of faith. What about you, chosen one? Will you say yes to the impossible? Will you step into the supernatural assignment God has been preparing you for your entire life? This is the chapter your grandchildren will tell, not the chapter about your struggles. They already know that story. This is the chapter about your breakthrough, the chapter about the grandmother who refused to give up at 83 and started a ministry that changed thousands of lives. The chapter about the grandfather who thought he was finished but became the financial blessing his family had prayed for. Your legacy isn't what's behind you, it's what's ahead of you. The enemy has been working overtime to convince you that your time has passed. He's whispered lies about your age, your relevance, your impact. But every lie he's told proves he's terrified of what you're about to become. You don't retire from God's army, beloved. You get promoted to general. Right now, there's someone whose name is burning in your heart. Someone who needs to hear this message. Someone who's given up, who's convinced their best days are over, who's sitting in the same darkness you just walked out of. They're waiting for you to share this light. They're part of your mission. This isn't coincidence, it's divine strategy. God didn't just save you for you. He saved you to be the voice that calls others out of their caves, out of their tombs, out of their despair. You're not just a survivor, chosen one. You're a rescue team leader in heaven's army. Here's your commission. Share this message with that person whose face just flashed in your mind. Don't hesitate. Don't second guess. That's the Holy Spirit giving you your first assignment as a commissioned agent of heaven. Their breakthrough is connected to your obedience. The clock is ticking, beloved. Not your life clock that just got reset. The harvest clock. Souls are dying without hope, while you debate whether you're qualified to carry hope. Children are growing up without spiritual inheritance, while you question whether your prayers matter. Nations are crumbling while God's army sits in retirement homes, wondering if they still have purpose. You do. You matter. You're needed. You're commissioned. Stand up wherever you are right now. Stand up. Feel the weight of divine authority settling on your shoulders. You're not just a senior citizen anymore. You're a senior warrior. You're not just aging, you're awakening. You're not just living out your final years, you're launching into your finest years. The test is over, chosen one. You passed with honors. Now comes your assignment. Now comes your authority. Now comes your moment to change the world. Will you accept your commission? Will you step into the impossible? Will you become the miracle someone else is praying for? The choice is yours. But choose quickly, eternity is watching. And tomorrow someone dies without hope because today you stayed silent. Your commission begins now. Conclusion. The sacred seal. Chosen one. As we come to the end of this sacred journey together, I need you to carry these eternal truths with you like precious jewels in your heart. Remember this. You didn't survive by accident. Every storm you weathered, every tear you shed, every moment you wanted to give up but didn't, that was God's hand holding you, preparing you, refining you for this very moment. You are not damaged goods. You are pure gold, tested by fire and proven genuine. Remember this. Your age is not your limitation, it's your qualification. Your scars are not your shame, they're your credentials. Your years are not a countdown to the end, they're a wind-up to your greatest chapter. The world sees retirement, but heaven sees reinforcement. Remember this, the test is over, and you passed with flying colors. Now comes your commissioning, your assignment, your moment to shine with the authority that only comes from walking through fire and emerging unburned. But hear me clearly, beloved. You are not walking this path alone. The God who created you before time began is still working in your life right now, in this very moment. He hasn't brought you this far to abandon you. Romans 8:28 reminds us that all things work together for good for those who love God, and that promise doesn't have an expiration date. And beyond God's faithfulness, you have something beautiful right here, right now. Look around these comments, see these hearts connecting. Feel these spirits resonating. You've found your tribe, chosen one. This isn't just a YouTube channel, this is a community of warriors, refined by fire, commissioned for purpose. We see you. We understand you. We will stand with you in prayer. We are here when the night feels long. We are here when doubt whispers lies. We are here when the enemy tries to convince you that your season is over. This community will remind you who you are when the world tries to make you forget. So let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Now that you know the truth about your test, your purpose, your commissioning, how will you walk differently tomorrow morning when you wake up? Will you shrink back into the shadows, or will you step boldly into the light God has prepared for you? Before I release you into your destiny, join me in this prayer. Wherever you are in your living room, your bedroom, your kitchen, place your hand on your heart and let me speak over your life with the authority of someone who has walked this path and seen God's faithfulness. Almighty God, creator of heaven and earth, the Ancient of Days, I come before you now carrying every person who has heard this message tonight. Father, you see their hearts. You know their struggles. You've counted every tear they've cried in secret, and you've collected everyone in your bottle. Lord, I pray for divine breakthrough over their lives tonight. Break every chain of limitation that has held them captive. Shatter every lie the enemy has whispered about their age, their worth, their purpose. Let them feel your presence so powerfully that doubt has no place to land in their hearts. Father, open doors that no man can shut. Close doors that lead to destruction. Give them wisdom for every decision, courage for every challenge, and faith for every impossibility. Let their latter years be greater than their former years. Let their sunset become their sunrise. Bless their families, Lord. Heal their relationships. Restore what the enemy has stolen. Pour out your abundance in their finances, their health, their peace. Let them become fountains of blessing to everyone they encounter. And God, use their stories, every painful chapter, every moment of triumph, to set captives free. Let their lives become lighthouses for others lost in the storm. Let their testimony become someone else's breakthrough. In the mighty name of Jesus, who conquered death so they could walk in victory, I seal this prayer. Let your will be done in their lives. Amen and amen. Now, beloved, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share what God spoke to your heart tonight. What shifted in your spirit? What are you believing Him for in this new season? Don't hold back. Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to keep fighting. Type I am commissioned if you're ready to walk in your divine assignment. Type I passed the test if you recognize your survival story as preparation for your purpose. And please, share your requests for prayer. This community will surround you with intercession and love. If this message touched your soul, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. There's someone in your life right now, a friend, a family member, a neighbor who's been feeling forgotten, overlooked, convinced their best days are behind them. They need to know they're not alone. They need to know their test has been preparing them for their testimony. Before you go, if this is your first time here, welcome to the family. Hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. You're not just subscribing to content, you're joining a movement of chosen ones who refuse to accept defeat, who understand that their latter days will be greater than their former days. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart, for letting these words penetrate the sacred chambers of your soul. Thank you for being brave enough to believe that maybe, just maybe, your greatest chapter is still being written. The test is over. Chosen one, you passed. Now go and